As you guys know, the White House declared Easter the day of resurrection for Christians, Catholic, as Transgender Day and visibility. So as a Christian nation, as a president who proclaims to be a Catholic, and with the, you know how they say politics is downstream from culture, my question proposed to all of you, but Chris, you first, what does this have to do, like what cultural impact does this have to do when it comes to making this announcement on Easter as a Christian nation?
And Chris, before you answer, and just to clarify, it was on March 31st, but whatever day, it fell on this day. So just to clarify, because I know people are going to talk trash, the fact that they were promoting it and letting you know, no mention of Jesus, and I know, Chris, you're going to go into it, no mention of the resurrection, all that stuff. It was specifically to go after the small minority, 0.0 whatever 1%.
Yeah, and I don't want, like, not, you can answer however you'd like, but not, oh, did Biden know? Not really interested in that, but like from a cultural perspective, what does this mean to the country, to the culture? What are your thoughts on that?
So I'll give you the full answer, and you guys stop me whenever you want to make your own points. One, yes, I am a Christian. I do not put my faith on people. I don't like proselytizing. I don't think it's a part of the faith. I know people disagree with that. I choose to believe and have faith because I am really flawed and I am desperate for anything that will help me get to a better place.
Gotcha.
That's why I choose faith. It is not a badge of superiority. If anything, it's me waving a flag to let you know that I am worse than most. That's what faith is in my head. So this is not about me taking up the Christian cause, all right? That's not what this is. That's not my place. Two, whether Biden knew or not is not an excuse. Mm-hmm. He didn't know. He's the president of the United States. I don't know what's worse, that you didn't know, you know, the ignorance or arrogance. I don't know which is a better path. This was a lose-lose. I believe that the transgender community needs protection. We know this. They are targeted.
Targeted by whom? Because this is a question that I know when we talk about violence within the trans community, I don't know that it's coming from cisgender white males. I believe most of it comes from within the community itself.
Whether it does or it doesn't, you are in the same place. I'm not saying that the white man is a bad thing. That's a different discussion that Pat and I are working on, which is there is an assault on masculinity and what it means to be a man and what is okay and what isn't. That is absolutely real. And you're seeing reverb to it all over the internet now that I believe is going way too far and is a little too toxic. But that's real. I'm not blaming cisgender males. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm saying I'm okay with visibility. I'm okay with tolerance. I'm okay with protection. But this was lose-lose because you made it seem like you were elevating them to the same status.
Good point.
As the most important Christian holiday. And that means that you're driving animus towards them.
But you say that, I mean, I know it seems that you might be suggesting that as though that's not exactly the plan. Many people rightly believe that those who are without religion will have their religion manifest in other ways, and that this trans ideology, call it a cult or call it a bad religion, has been put on that pedestal to the point where if you don't bow down and pledge allegiance to it, you are public enemy number one. I mean, a lot of people say that is exactly what they're doing on purpose.
I think, yes, I've heard that. I think I've heard that on this couch. But I don't agree with that. I'm very slow on anything conspiratorial, okay? Why? I am very skeptical of the ability of any of our major mechanisms to do anything that intelligent, okay? The idea of organized anything, to me, there's so much more randomness than there is planning in what I see in our political movements. But here's what I know. You have a lot of people who probably didn't have an opinion about transgender people or what it meant, who now do, and it's negative because you made it something that came at the same time and in the same way as what really matters to them. Now, some people will say, well, too bad, they matter too. But time, place, and manner. Okay, time, place, and manner. Easter's different every year. Crazy Gregorian calendar stuff with the full moon and everything else. Who cares? Yours is May 5th, you know, this year, whatever. But you set them up to be an adversary. And shame on the administration for that.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
The organization required for this to be collaborative. You know, people don't need to meet in a room, but I sent Kelly the screen grab. I put together a little montage.
We see this
where you get. I mean, it's quite clear. You get to, you know, the tweeting from the New York Attorney General, from Alex Soros, who might, you know, very well have the dark hand in all of this. Gretchen Whitmer, Karine Jean-Pierre. It's quite clearly not orchestrated necessarily behind closed doors, but it's this, you know, mob mentality. It feeds off each other. And the idea, first of all, if people didn't have a negative impression about this it's not about visibility anymore. I said this. It's about subjugation in a very religious sense. If they didn't have a negative impression about this, when Leah Thomas, a biological male with an operating ding-dong, having sexual relations with women while he's competing and beating women, if nobody had a negative impression then, I don't know when they're going to come around. Religious people, I presume, have always had some religious objections to mutilating the body, altering a body that is made in the image of God.
Unless they're doing it for their own religious purposes.
Well,
that mutilation is okay.
Well, yeah, exactly. I've had this argument. Male circumcision is not mutilation, in my humble view, because
I wasn't talking about that.
Well,
although they way overdid it on me.
Female well, but this is the irony is that. Yeah, never mind.
There's a suit in there somewhere.
I'm trying not to get canceled today,
and we're going to go deeper after this episode.
The idea that, you know, we've always been out against female genital mutilation, especially in kids. It's illegal, but now all of a sudden, when kids want to cut off breasts, cut off penises, you give it a nice name, gender affirming care, and all of a sudden, it's no longer female genital mutilation in minors. It's wild.
Look, I totally understand why you feel the way you do. Okay. I am not as developed in my opinion structure around the issue. I really try in my own personal life. If it doesn't affect me, there's a high indifference bar for me. I don't go out of my way to have opinions about things. What would I do if it were my kid? My wife and I have talked about this. We actually see it differently. I believe, as we heard yesterday, when we did the podcast, Adam was doing this volleyball thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And with models playing volleyball. And one of them was transgender, this beautiful transgender woman. And she said something that's really important that people need to hear. So Adam's like, well, tell us your story. like, which, was a little awkward, right?
Yeah.
And she says, well, when I was 25, I had the transition surgery, or whatever the right phrase is. And that's the key. I have never, in my personal experience, and I've had a pretty good amount of interviewing these people, spending time with transgender people and people in the related communities. It's an adult decision. Mm-hmm. And I've never heard one of them not tell me that if it were my kid, now we're saying that kids, that I won't let my kids choose what subjects they take. You know what I mean? Like I barely let these kids go through their own college application process. I'm going to let them decide what gender they are as minors. To me, that is an unacceptable standard. But that's me. That's personal to me. Here's what I'm saying. You can feel any way you want about it. When you put it on the same day and on the same level of significance as the resurrection of Christ... Now, I know a lot of people are not maybe watching this show, but people are going to roll their eyes and be like, yeah, because that really happened. So Cuomo is saying that a fiction, which is Jesus, deserves more respect than a reality, which is transgender. Yeah, I am. Good. Because you live in a country where people care about this. And you've put them into a position now to be in opposition to something that you want them to have tolerance for. And it was a mistake. And yeah, you do hear it more on the left. No question. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a party wanting to be more about tolerance. But your point is also well taken. If I don't want to feel the way that you feel about it, you should not punish me. And that is an extension of the poison in our politics overall. If you and I don't agree about the border, it doesn't mean that I should go to the fifth circle of hell. It just means that we don't agree on that.
There might be some people who say if you don't agree that it's wrong to chop off a 14-year-old girl's breasts, you might deserve to go to the fifth circle of hell. I mean, there are certain things where it's no longer just we can agree to disagree. There are fundamentally immoral questions at issue here and fundamentally wrong and evil things at play.
And that's when it gets into the point of, and I disagree with I understand that your comment about the conspiracy thing, Chris. You don't think that they're good enough or smart enough to get together, and I don't think it takes that much to have people that are of influence, of power, and they control the narrative to get together and go, guys, know what? this president, I'm just being hypothetical, this president doesn't want war. He wants all this shit. We're going to kill him. That's what we're going to do. I think we have to give them a little bit more credit because evil, think about how positive people spread love and do their thing. Evil gets together and does the same thing. But going to the transgender thing, I think, and you nailed it, picking that day, look at what they're achieving, okay? You are pissing off. And what was the percentage, Mo, of Christians in America? Let's just say America. Forget about the world.
You're still at about 50%.
50%. Half of Americans that go to church and are furious now, okay? They're going to get, now when they see these transgenders, they see these flags, they're going to be like, you know what? Let's go get them. So now you're pissing off both parties. And as we've been seeing as of late, a lot of these mass shooters which they're hiding their manifestos. We're not finding out they're trans for months after because they don't want to.
That was a mistake also.
Huge mistake. I think that's where it's like, wait a minute. You guys are purposely doing it. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think it's purposefully done to further divide an already divided nation. You do not do something like that. Not like they picked it. A lot, again, misconception was, oh, they said Easter. I don't care about that. I care that you were promoting it so much and not one time, Chris, did I hear Jesus Christ.
Well, and the rebuttal to that argument, it changes every year. March 31st has been Trans Visibility Day since 2009. That's the steel man of the other side.
Yes.
Flip side, Biden's been president since 2021,
Yeah.
has never officially proclaimed it to be Trans Visibility Day and picked Easter Sunday to do it.
Exactly.
Did he celebrate it in previous years on Instagram or Twitter?
I don't believe
Did he?
he did, but
No, that's a good question.
Oh,
Did
Nobody's
I'm
supposed to
asking.
answer it.
Yeah,
I believe it was
This
the
is
first time.
exactly what you do, which is why you're allowed to sit.
I'm going to go look right now.
Jamie,
You're
pull
sitting
that
with
up.
a
Let's see.
laptop on. You're not listening to any of us, and now you ask us.
He was downloading porn, which he always does, but he left us a cliffhanger. Me and Mo were like this.
I'm fairly certain.
Did he? Great point.
I'm fairly certain he didn't and certainly did not proclaim it to be the official day. He proclaimed it this year and was the first time. The bottom line, also, to the trans visibility issue. Nobody ever had a problem in my lifetime with trans people, and it's not because they didn't exist. We all grew up, we had a person in the family who used to dress up like women. Nobody cared. It only became an issue when it was forced down our throats, and it no longer became about visibility and tolerance. It became about compliance and subjugation, forcing other people to use preferred pronouns, forcing women to be beat by men in women's sports, and have us be demonized for saying, that's not right.
I see the cultural play that you're outlining. I guess, and help me on this, okay? I feel that this issue is exaggerated in its significance. I'm not saying that the dynamic is, I hear it all the time from people that I don't want to have to say, if I look at you and I say, hey, how you doing, buddy? I don't want you to try to get me fired because I didn't call you Alice or whatever you want to be called. I understand the sensitivity. I do feel that it's exaggerated in terms of how much this matters in society. When you see a guy who's my size playing against high school girls, it's a no-brainer that this isn't right. And until they can say, well, it turns out that as long as there's this much hormone therapy, that they're just like, look, I have kids. I watch them play sports. I have seen trans kids playing. They are physically superior to the other girls that they're playing with, okay? It's a no-brainer. It also happens very, very rarely, okay? I just don't want to exaggerate it. We have so many real problems that are happening on a large scale. Transgender females ruining women's sports is a very low problem. Does it happen? Do we have cases? Yes. To me, it's like illegal entrants raping people or killing people. Does it happen? Yes. Is one too many? Fine. If that's your standard. We just don't apply that standard anywhere else on anything. But fine, it is. But that's not our rape problem. That's not our murder problem. That's not our problem with women's sports. That's not our problem in society in terms of cultural tolerance. I feel like we're allowing, and maybe it is the left, maybe you're right, that we're allowing the left to weaponize this issue and make it something that it doesn't deserve to be. Not because tolerance isn't the right thing. They're just using it as a sword and a shield when
Yeah.
it shouldn't matter that much, as you said.
I would actually say it's a really big issue, and the reason for it is it's so much more than just saying it's a small percentage of the population, right? We can agree, we can
Very
all agree
small.
on that. But what we talk about is we need to protect the government needs to protect transgender. The government needs to protect its people, like whether you're black, brown, you're white, you're male, you're female. That's part of what they have to do. But we always talk about, okay, well, they might be disenfranchised because they're transgender. We never talk about the people at a young age who are influenced by the culture. When you see Hollywood and you see all of these different award shows now in dresses, now talking about trans, now everyone on these different shows, they're promoting it. So although it might be a small percentage of the population, it's everywhere. And we have to, considering it might not be me or specific to myself, thinking of young children, they're very moldable. So if they're seeing it in books, they're seeing it on Instagram, they're seeing it on, all of these
everywhere.
different platforms.
Social contagion is the term.
100%.
It is absolutely a fad. Now it's just not the goth fad that, oh, you look back at pictures where you had weird hair. Now it's, oh, I went through the trans fad and I've done irreparable harm to children.
And then what about the young children who do that and then they turn 25 and they realize, I don't know why I did that. Like if you guys saw me when I was
Detransitioning is a real thing.
It's a real thing. If you guys would have saw me, like,
And there were
thank God
apostates.
I wasn't born in this generation where my mom was like, oh, you should actually shave your hair and be called Tyler, because I wore boy shorts, I wore jerseys, I wore bandanas. I was the biggest tomboy.
Thug.
If that was me today, they'd be like, you should be a boy. And I would have been so influenced. I would have been probably confused because I'm like, well, but thankfully I wasn't. And so when I say it's not a big issue percentage of the population wise, it's very influential, especially when it's affecting the minds of the children.
Bob, what were you going to say?
So I did go back through the Instagram page of the White House, and Kelly, I sent you the screenshots. I don't know if you can pull them up real quick, but I wanted to go back and just see, did they post anything last year?
Okay.
The White House only posted one message on Easter. It was just one photo that said
In the
Happy
past
Easter.
4 years,
No. This year, they only posted one photo. But if you take a look, these are the posts from last year. And there's the Easter Bunny. If you could scroll to the next photo, Kelly. Let's see. There's 1, 2. That one says, today we celebrate the sacrifice and recommit ourselves to the love of God. So these are all Easter related. Can you scroll to the next photo? These are all Easter related as well. So lots of Easter last year. Not a single post for National Trans Visibility Day at all.
Period.
Not around Easter weekend, not in the weeks leading up, not in the weeks leading after. So this is the first year where the White House goes and celebrates National Trans Visibility Day with a post, and it just so happens that it's on Easter Sunday of all days to celebrate.
Karine Jean-Pierre and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
I love
and
the pronunciation.
By the way, you know he's from Montreal.
I'm from Montreal.
Is that what it is?
So Karine
Montreal.
Jean-Pierre.
It's very strong.
I'll say one thing just before I forget it is it has been weaponized, and I say by the left, and it's not to solve a problem, it's to create one. Because you go back 20 years, and I'm thinking Miami Vice, Crockett and... Oh, geez.
Tubbs.
Crockett and Tubbs. You go back to Schwarzenegger in Predator movie. You go back to all of these movies where you had racial harmony and nobody had an issue with it. Nobody even asked the question because it wasn't being jammed down your throats. Come Obama, come Justin Trudeau in Canada. They say, oh, we got a problem here. Intolerance. We got to force all of these racial requirements. We got to force these social issues, knowing damn well they're making the problem worse. In fact, they're probably making a problem where there was never one to begin with. The more they focus on this and claim that there's a special class of people who are being particularly treated badly, when in fact, I think, tolerance was probably at the highest before the issue got focused on. They're just making it worse. They're just dividing and conquering. And it is another problem for them to solve and say, holy cows, we need more laws, we need more surveillance, etc.
Not a problem to solve, a problem to exploit.
No, I say a problem to create, and then weaponize and then exploit.
I see it similarly in terms of the dynamic of them creating problems that work for them, in terms of keeping the division dynamic going. I really believe that the poison in the system is the two-party system. I really do. I think if you didn't have that, would you have similar dynamics? Yes, but not to the degree. And degree is everything, to Taylor's point, okay? It's, what are you making of this? Why are you doing that? I think that's very true. I just believe that it may be everywhere. My kids are super sensitized to this in terms of, I guess, just their tacit acceptance of reality. Like the N-word, okay? My kids live in fear of the N-word the way I used to live in fear of being mugged when I was growing up in Queens. Like, if I were to say that word, and what I say to them all the time is, okay, look, I get it. I'm not saying you should be dropping N-bombs or any racial epithet anywhere. But what do you do to show tolerance and to show that you care about people of different races other than just not say this ugly word. And I think it's an extension of what you're talking about, which is the culture of political correctness. We have gotten very deep into the game of what to say versus what to do. And everything is about what's right and wrong, and you can't say that, and you can't do that. And if I say that your luxurious locks,
Very luxurious.
that if I'm like, boy, it's got like a woman's hairdo. Whoa, what'd you just say?
The irony to that is, like, people will compliment or they'll talk about my hair, but
you got a nice head of hair.
Change race.
That's objective.
But I think it just goes to the issue of once the racial identity politics card has been played and overplayed, and everyone's looking for it everywhere. Someone compliments or mentions my hair, it's a non-issue. If it's of another race and you talk about their hair and you say nice hair, it becomes racist.
Yes, 100%. Now, is there a good and a bad side? Well, yeah. You want to be sensitive to people, but it's about degree. Again, it's about degree and about what it means. Now, I don't agree that we never had any of these problems until we created them recently. I think that we are uniquely judgy in America.
Big time.
We are a judgy people. And we see it even in, social media has turbocharged it. People feel the need to have opinions about everything. When you go to other countries, and you know this from exposure to different cultures, it's so hard to get opinions out of people in Europe. They'll be like, well, listen, I mean, they're doing this party this way, and this party is doing this thing this way. And really, we have to be careful because, in Paris right now, in France, what they're dealing with a new wave of extreme Islamism that they're having to deal with.
Yep.
They'll give you 50 different reasons that they have concerns about things, but they won't tell you what they're supposed to do. In America, they give you an opinion right away. They have nothing behind it.
Nothing.
And this plays right into that.
Yep.
So that now you have people focused on transgenderism and has no role in their life.
Yeah, at all. I agree.
I feel like opinions would probably be, of course they have to be educated. You would hope so, at least, because then you look at Europe and you're like, I can see why you guys have a lot of problems too. You guys have opinions on nothing.
Yeah.